Hey there, I'm Mr. Black.
And I'm Mr. Green. And we're a couple of guys who met in a comic book store.
Together we host the Pint O' Comics podcast, where we invite listeners to join us to talk about movies, TV, comics, music, or just whatever.
Starting very soon, we'll be joining up with the fine folks at Forgotten Entertainment for a special limited series called On the QT, where we talk Tarantino.
Every week for 10 weeks, a guest will join us to chat about every Quentin Tarantino movie, from Reservoir Dogs to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So join us starting in May 2021.
On the QT is available wherever you download your podcasts and is part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Generic Ad.
Join us every Wednesday as we talk about films that seem to be forgotten by audiences, whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the film, maybe don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. You never know, you might find your own forgotten gem. Forgotten Cinema is available wherever you get your podcasts, or at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com, as we are a proud part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
I swear I talk more in the episodes.
Hi, I'm Shamar Griffith, codename Comic Shams.
And I'm Andrew Tejada, codename Arate.
I'm a blurred with a love for artwork and comics and animation.
And I'm a writer and blurred with a love for pretty much the same things.
We grew up together and spent much of our formative years watching and talking about DC superhero shows and content. In fact, we still do.
Every episode, we will discuss a DC production, compare it to its original source material, and share our thoughts on the adaptation.
We've enjoyed our conversations these past couple of decades, and we think you will too.
This season, we'll put a shock to our system by covering Static Shock, the animated series, on
yet another DC animated podcast. Welcome to yet another episode, yet another DC animated podcast. My name is Shamar Griffith, codename Comic Shams.
And I am Andrew Tejada, codename Arate.
Andrew and I have known each other since 1996.
That was the year of the great North American blizzard. That it attacked the East Coast with so much snow that even, in Big Meadows, Virginia, 47 inches of snow. That's how crazy things got.
Damn. I don't know why, but I thought the fact was going to be about Vanilla Ice. We were talking about that. I was like,
it was close, but, I decided to go a little bit out of the box for this one. And for you New York natives, we got a 20 inches, just so you know, for you New York.
I do remember that storm, mainly because I remember having to walk through it. I don't know why. This was like a vivid memory I had when I was like 5 years old of walking through all that snow and almost like getting buried in it. Not that I'm saying it was like I'm 20 inches tall at the time, but rather, for a kid, that's a ton of snow.
Yeah, that is an overwhelming amount of snow. And I think even Static could relate to us today.
Yes, because today we're talking about our next episode in season 2. We're talking about the first one called Frozen Out, followed by episode 6 of season 2, Sunspot. So this episode, I think we could call it a Song of Ice and Fire. That way we could, avoid any trademark issues.
Yeah, and we could even put the Fire and Ice DC heroes. As advertisement. It all loops. It all connects.
Yes, in these 2 episodes, our main Static cast is back, and we got special guest stars here with Hynden Walsh playing Permafrost. This was before she would go on to voice Starfire in the Teen Titans series, pretty much in every single iteration there's ever been. And it's also
insane. I just got to say, that is insane that she is on Static before Starfire. I could not believe it. I couldn't.
And also quick shout out to our guests a couple episodes back, because Hynden was also part of the Winx Club at one point. She voiced 2 characters on the Winx Club. Y'all can look up to see who, because we got to keep this going as we talk about our next special guest star, Michael Dorn, who, he joined on a ship, not in a galaxy far, far away, but in another universe, as he played Worf, the Klingon Worf in the Star Trek series. He is here in this Frozen Out episode as Reverend Anderson. But yeah, Sunspots had a typical cast, no special guests there, because it was pretty much all of everybody returning. But we're going to start off with Frozen Out with, we just finished out our holiday specials, and then bam, once again, it's Christmas time.
Well, technically, it's Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa time.
Oh,
so
yes, that's true. That's true.
Why we didn't want to cover it just for Christmas, because this one is all inclusive, and also we forgot. Anyway, so we are into. Virgil is right in the mix of it. He's got so much on his plate. He's got a Hanukkah event with Frida. Hey, Frida.
Right, yo. Where's Frida been this entire time?
It's the question you'll be asking yourself, because she does not appear for the rest of the episode, pretty much. So he's trying to make the Hanukkah party, Daisy's Kwanzaa party. He has a Ramadan party lined up. And
this is the most inclusive friend group I've ever heard anyone have. Like, it's like a CW series.
And what are the chances you get invited to all three? I've never pulled it off.
Okay, that was my next question, because I was just like, I don't even think I've been invited to these holiday celebrations like that. I felt like these were like key family things you probably didn't want your friends coming through to see. But I'm kind of glad that Virgil's getting all this exposure, and also Richie, because the boy needs it after his whole scenario with his dad. So,
oh yeah, some family time is definitely required. But early on, we're going to put the petition: Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Dawn. Somebody throw this party next year, so we can get it all in one go, and we don't have to go across the city. So, unlike Virgil, who he's split between all these things, but for a minute, all he wants to do is enjoy some latkes and some delicious latkes. Unfortunately, the power just went out, and Richie is just not gonna let Virgil go. He's just saying, yo, you got to take care of this. I'm sorry. I'll save you a plate, maybe, but you got to go.
Word, I'm pretty sure those latkes are probably fire.
Ah, yeah, they were. They were.
So Static heads on over because he hears using his new ability, which I don't think we've seen yet before, but the static radio call, because he's able to take his hand, put it up next to his ear, and dial in to the police radios. So he heads on over to a frozen transformer where he does, I guess, another new move where he's able to burn off all the ice that's frozen over this transformer with very minimal damage, I think, this time around.
Yeah, actually, I can't. There's no recorded damage here that I could see. I also like to mention the city workers around the transformer are doing absolutely nothing. They're
nothing
not,
at all.
They're not trying to fix the situation at all. They're like, we're not getting paid overtime. We'll just sit around, and thank God Static was there. Otherwise, so many people would have not had power. And while he's around the power station, he sees a metahuman in the distance, and he tries to confront, but he is hit by icicles, and he's pinned by an icicle. He can't get out, and it's a great tension scene where he's just so close to recharging his powers because he burned them all in that one melting ice scene, but he just is just out of reach. It's a great tension-filled scene.
Yeah, I agree. And also just seeing, it's basically like raining ice stalagmites? Oh, tides. Okay. Is this
Yeah, I think so. I could be wrong, but I'm going to say you're right.
All right. Shout out to Earth Science. So as he makes his way out, the next morning, Virgil is basically now attacked by more ice as Richie comes up and hits him in the face with a snowball, which is just so rude, man. Like, and he didn't even bring him any latkes from the party, so that's even worse. So Virgil is reading through the paper, and Richie tells him, yo, check out page 6 because I hooked you up with, just like a PR thing. We got to work on your brand. And Static is now slated to light the Christmas tree that's happening in Dakota a couple days from now, which Static is very upset with because he's just like, I just want to relax. This is the holiday season. And everything so far has just been nothing but work and despair around me. I want to chill.
Yeah, I gotta say, Richie is real obnoxious in this episode for no reason.
Really is.
He's like, go do your job, Static. I signed you up for tree lighting, Static. I'm like, Richie, tone it down, man. It's the holidays. Maybe you get this way during the holidays. I don't want to hang out with you right now. But Static is still gonna try to make the tree lighting and then live his life as Virgil, which is, funnily enough, a plot line that would have worked a lot better in the Shaq episode, but that's a whole other story.
Still feeling a little hurt there, I see.
Yeah, I mean, this would have been perfect. The balancing of the lives. But in any case, he's over at the mall with Daisy and his true love interest, it seems. Mm-hmm. And I love this quick thing where he's like, I'm trying to get a Christmas gift for my sister. I hope they have a sale on muzzles. Damn. Damn, Virgil. And things start getting a little icy. So he uses yet another bathroom-related excuse. He says the hot chocolate's running through him too quickly. He has to go to the bathroom so he can change. And we find that the icy metahuman is encountering a shop owner and accidentally freezes his hand, which will 90% sure has to get amputated.
Yes, that was a clear indicator there, people, of keep your distance. Not only just what's going on right now in the world, but in general, don't put your hands on somebody, because as his hand gets frozen over, she starts freezing up the rest of the mall. Everybody's going crazy. Like, she is running through the entire mall and things are just being frozen solid behind her. People are falling down frozen escalators. There's at one point in which the giant tree in the mall gets completely frozen over as it starts tipping over, and Daisy is about to be the victim of a ice tree scenario, which is just a bad thing you want to ever happen to you on the holidays, to be honest.
Oh yeah, it's the worst. It's, it's surprisingly common. I think it happened at least once in human history. And Static, of course, comes in, saves Daisy. There was a nice little quip. He's like, Lois, is it? And
that's our DC reference of the week, y'all.
There you go. I love the connection. But during his save, he gets caught on a rising icicle, and he almost is going to go straight into the ceiling when he uses one of my favorite, so many new techniques in this episode. So creative. But he uses electricity to heat up the ice so he can essentially fall down through the icicle like an elevator, I mean, and just go right down. And it's so cool how it's animated, that he thought of it on the fly. I'm loving this expanded power set for Static today.
And as Static is traveling through the floors, we jump on over to the girl again, the same person that Static saw before. She sees a little girl being protected by her mother. Her mother's telling her, don't worry, nothing's going to happen to you. And in this moment, we get a flashback to add some exposition to just exactly who this girl is. We see that she's dancing around the Christmas tree. She's decorating it. Her mother is sitting in the chair across from her. And we see that she's hooked up to an oxygen tank in some way, shape, or form. So she's passing her some more ornaments, one in particular being this an angel Christmas tree topper. And as she's about to hand it to her, this man from the shadows just pops out of nowhere. He is walking through the house, and it's clear that his presence alone is colder than the weather outside. So as he heads on out, he doesn't say anything, doesn't greet anyone in any way, shape, or form. He just opens the door, slams it shut, and keeps on his way. This causes the little girl's mother to go into this crazy coughing fit. And we immediately jump to the next scene now, where it's just like the ornaments have fallen. There's an ambulance there outside the house, and the little girl's outside holding on to the angel tree topper once again. Then we see someone's behind her, and there's a woman from Child Services telling her that she needs to come with her. And this girl is immediately just scared. She's lost. Like, it's really such a strong scene, especially just the way it's even handled, where there's hardly any color in it. So it's just like putting forward, this is such a dark memory for her. And as she tries to run away, the little girl trips on some snow, and this causes the angel that she had in her hands to fly out, hit the ground, and shatter on impact. I gotta say, this was like really jarring to see, because it was just like, I didn't remember this at all. I mean, I hardly remember this episode, but just seeing how it all started out for her, and this is the first time I think we've ever got a chance to really see such in-depth backstory on a villain, like throughout the entire season so far.
Yeah, this is like a full up prologue right here, where we're really getting into what made her. And yeah, they kind of let you fill in the gaps too, that after some point after that, she became a bang baby because some of this memory was triggered by her seeing a mother and daughter. So it's in the mall. So you can kind of put together that she has been separated from her mother for a while. She's on her own. And now she has these ice powers that she can't fully control, but they are tied to her emotions. So it's a really good setup for her inevitable next clash with Static, because she leaves and Virgil, he goes off. He has to take care of some stuff at the community center, where, to lighten the mood, I guess, Richie is being obnoxious as hell again. And they're lifting packages. Like, I get it, Richie. I get it. Like, lifting, you want some little help with packages with by having Virgil use some magnetic boost or whatever. But Richie's just whining and complaining. And as soon as he gets a chance, Richie just leaves. He just straight up leaves Static to move all these boxes. But we do find out that these boxes are to benefit the homeless in Dakota.
Yeah, and we get a really good conversation here, because Virgil, upon trying to talk with his dad to see if there's any point at which he could leave and chill and relax, his dad introduces him to Reverend Anderson here. And the two of them are having a conversation about basically homelessness in Dakota at this point. And something that I'm really surprised that they dropped in here was the fact that they commented on the fact that there's a lack of involvement from the politicians in Dakota, or possibly even in America, to address this issue. So it's up to us to really handle it, to really help in any way that we can. And they even drop in some staggering statistics about how many people you can find that are either unhoused individuals. So whenever just hearing that they were able to drop that and then kind of lead the conversation into, hey, if you have some time, I'd love to tell you more about it, in terms of just like, I want you to get involved to help. Static, unfortunately, tells him that he's currently late to head over to Daisy's Kwanzaa party. As you jump back home now, Virgil's trying to find the freshest of shirts. Unfortunately, it seems that none of them have been touched by the Downy or the fabric softener or detergent in quite some time.
Yeah, he's got to go. And unfortunately, he gets a call from Richie. God, Richie just ruining Christmas. And Richie lets him know there's a sudden ice storm, not unlike the 1996 nor'easter, downtown. And Static puts two and two together and figures out that this is the metahuman he's been looking for. Richie nicknames her Permafrost. So he decides to go over and confront her. And real quick, I do want to mention that Static did mention going online shopping earlier, which I was like, 2000, 2001?
2002.
Two? We were online shopping like that? Sure. He's ahead of your time. But Static goes down and confront Permafrost. And what I really love about this moment is, well, there's two things. One, he doesn't attack her. Mm-hmm. And usually he shows up with the bang baby. He kind of tries to interfere right away. But here he does not make any threatening moves. He doesn't try to contain her or restrain her at all. He just wants to have a conversation with her. And then secondly, the attack that motivates Permafrost to lash out is Virgil saying, "Come with me." You have to come with me now. So it's a traumatic trigger for her that motivates her to lash out. It's not random. It's not spiteful. It is trauma from her past has caused her. So it's a really nice interaction that sets up this inevitable fight. One of the saddest fights going into it in the show so far, because we don't want either of them to hurt each other.
Agreed. But we do know that this confrontation is coming, because as Static flies on over to where Permafrost has run off to, like, there's some really great scenes in this animation of the fight too, that the quick fight that they have is really just the chase, where Permafrost creates basically a snow tidal wave. But she's also exhibiting skills of just like basically an ice, like a speed skater and everything. She's dodging traffic. She's blowing off like other icicles in Static's way so that he can at least be stopped so she can get away. But as Static gets caught in this snow tidal wave, he locates where Permafrost could be hiding. And this is the first time that Static gets introduced with the issue of the homeless community within Dakota, as he's talking with them, and they're all just against him even being there. They're all saying that we just want to be left alone. Like, we've already suffered through enough. And it's clear that it's just like, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're just not witnessing, because it's a good line that gets said later on that I just want to save that line for later. But there's one person who's willing to help Static, and it's a woman who is taking care of 2 children. It's unknown whether these children are her own, but it's it's good to just see that this woman here is like helping in any way that she can within the community that she has here. So as she leads Static over to where Permafrost's room is, he sees like this entire kind of bedroom set up, just completely frozen over. And he sees there's a photograph on the ice dresser that's there. And when he looks at it, he sees that there's a picture of this little girl with her mom. And then part of the picture has been ripped off, indicating that same man that we saw earlier, who basically walked out of the home.
Oh, and this is a great animated shot. Just because you see Virgil's face where the stepfather's face should be before the frame shatters and just sees the picture. So it's a great internal callback to earlier when the ornament shattered, to see the frame shattered. Her family is shattered, keeps going over and over again. And it sets up a great moment later, which we'll definitely get into. And in the midst of this conversation, and I alluded to this a couple of episodes ago, but now hearing it is so great that the mother, that in the homeless mother that we encounter, says, I think she's got mental problems. I think she's got some mental issues. So she says it. And then when Static takes the information he has to the priest he talked to earlier, while still dressed up as Static, the priest also reinforces that mental illness is a problem amongst the homeless community. It's one of the factors that can lead to homelessness. So, yeah, this show is having open conversations about mental illness, and that, again, years ahead of its time, where now that's pretty common for shows, but for kids shows at this age. But back then, it's crazy to see it talked about so openly.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, this show does wonders in the social commentary, even in the smallest ways. Like, just some things just pop up that you just connect with that could be life-changing for someone in the future, because it registers for them like, wait, here is a way that I can help, or wait, here is something that I don't agree with. What can I do to help change that? Because even here, as Static is talking with Reverend Anderson, they're talking about the resources that could be available for people. So unfortunately, we don't get a chance to dive into it at this moment, because Static has to head on over to the tree lighting ceremony, and Reverend Anderson is going to be working on, which is a really cool thing to hear, an interfaith sermon where he's bringing together everything that we've heard about with Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan. So I'm just really impressed that this was able to happen in a show in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it's this is so forward thinking. So many aspects of the show are so forward thinking, and I'm just constantly impressed by what they're able to do. And even Static at one point talks to God as a quip.
Yes.
As a quip aside.
Okay. I thought I was
Yeah.
That one I was shocked with because I don't think I've ever expected to see that portrayed in a cartoon in any way, shape, or form. And he's not even having like a prayer, sit down prayer kind of conversation with God. It's just a conversation, which to me just seems so cool. It's just like I'm commenting on this crazy things happening with me right now.
It's like, I'm having one of those days. You ever have one of those days, God? And he's like, oh, yeah, probably.
Right. Yeah.
Good to know he doesn't have a God complex.
Right.
So Virgil is at the tree lighting ceremony he doesn't want to be at. And just as he's about to light the tree and do the ceremony, some ice and wind blows in. So he confronts Permafrost, who now he knows her name is Maureen. Mm-hmm. And I love this moment because he calls her Maureen, and that kind of snaps her out of attacking. Can you think of another DC movie that tried that and it didn't quite work?
It was right there, y'all. It was right there. Just look at it. Was not. I don't remember how long ago that movie was, but this show had it. Yes.
Picture the Will Smith meme where he's just like, "Here it is," because just saying the name connects them. Mm-hmm. And then, as an added bonus, not to take away the emotional weight of the scene, but it's impossible not to make the comparison. Another point of connection between them is Virgil says, "I lost my mom too," and they have this connection through that pain. And Virgil acknowledges like the pain doesn't go away, but we can help. Like maybe we can help you. And Maureen's line is just heartbreaking, where she just goes, all these families happy and warm, they don't know what they have. That's why I took out the Transformer and attacked. So, it's not for riches. It wasn't for vandalism. Everything Maureen has done up to this point is connected to her character and her backstory. She is the most fully formed villain that is ever. And villain is not even the right word. She's just an antagonist in this case, because she was just working opposite of what Virgil wanted. But it is, she's so fully formed, and everything comes full circle in this beautiful confrontation. They don't really need to fight again. Mm-hmm. They don't need to have Ice send a truck driver to his death while Virgil does nothing, which he did do earlier. I'm sure the truck driver was all right. But maybe. But
it's cartoons. He'll be all right.
Cartoon physics, hopefully. Yeah, but this is a great way to bring it full circle.
Yeah, I agree. And also, just want to say too, like this fight scene that they had, really short, but it was really well animated. I think the two of them show that they have the sense of confidence, even in just like their abilities here, of what they have control over, of Static being able to talk things through. Because even compared to what he's done in the past, like, he's done the lift cars and bus and like trains, boats, and automobiles and all those things. But this time he's really playing the defensive, like I'm trying to talk to you kind of scenario. While Maureen is just showcasing that like she has full control of her ice powers, which is really just cool to see that like at this moment, as someone who just feels lost and disappointed in her world, she kind of has a sense of like confidence here. And then moving on to once they really kind of reconcile, she says also a line that I really connected with me, because it was just like, Static doesn't know what it's like to be an unhoused individual. Here she is, that she's living this life, and she mentions how people look past her constantly, like she's not even there. And he admits right there in that moment, he's like, yeah, I've been guilty of that.
Yeah, I've been guilty of looking right through her. It's a great line. And it comes right before they hug.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have this hug connection, this moment of warmth between the two. And I mean, that we haven't seen Static end a fight like that. And it was great to see that it's resolved peacefully. And in the following scene, he takes Maureen to the priest that he met earlier. And, you know, the priest basically says, it's up to you. We're not going to make you do anything you don't want to do. And Maureen chooses to get better and get help and get support in that moment from a child services worker or a social worker that's there in the room. And it's just a lovely moment. 2 episodes back, when Mirage went to child services, that's kind of where it ended.
Oh, yeah.
But here we got to see Maureen take an active choice and decide to do it.
Yeah. And we jump to our next scene now. We see the interfaith service is being held with Reverend Anderson speaking to the crowd. And, you know, again, I just love, as you mentioned, just the love of the commentary from the people of Dakota, because there's definitely one line in which when Reverend Anderson says, we need to be there for those who are in need because we need to come together and help the needy any way we can. And someone definitely yelled out, preach, preacher.
Yes.
And I lost it at this moment.
Yes. It's just like Bigfoot's theme song. It's like every time you hear it's so beautiful. All the commentary, you could tell people had fun pretending to react to the sermon. And it all wraps up with this beautiful, heartbreaking montage where the priest says, for those whose blessings are out of reach today, we must offer safe conduct and passage. And you see the homeless people that were in the steel, or kind of like the auto yards where they were originally placed at first, where they found Permafrost's place. Yeah. You see them, you see just moving between them and the church. And it ends with Virgil shedding a tear. And Richie, you know, he doesn't have all the insight on the whole case yet. So Richie is like, you know, is there anything wrong? And I was like, no, you know, he gets what the Christmas is about.
Yeah. And
that's where it wraps up. And I mean, what a complete, full and layered story. You know, not expecting that from the Christmas special. Usually that's when people phone it in. But here it's definitely a different story.
Yeah. And speaking of a different story, we're going to jump on to the next episode now, where we have the fire part of our Song of Ice and Fire with Sunspots. And don't worry about timeline and trying to make a story that like follows in a linear format, because in our last episode, we were dealing all with ice. This time around, all the ice is melted. We have jumped, I guess, a couple months into the future, or at least half a year into the future or something, because it is blazing hot outside, as there's the Clear Eyes Guy commercial who is there just being their teacher and explaining our new villain of the day, sunspots, because we are currently in this episode in the sunspot cycle, and he's trying to get the class interested in it, but no one's really paying attention. I guess they're all dreaming about getting outside and, you know, enjoying some AC or a cool breeze of some sort, while Richie's in the class and he gets called on to explain what is a sunspot and when will it end?
And the answer is vague, never, maybe. They established that sunspots can go on for some periods of time. They don't really have a good way to monitor them at the current time they're in. And in the midst of all this, they see some smoke in the distance. So this is a huge fire because they can see it from their school.
True.
And once again, Virgil has that bathroom excuse. He pretends to, he says he ate some green meat. He's got to go teacher lets him out, and the Super Saiyan transformation begins.
Yeah, and one quick thing about sunspots that we also learned in this episode and a little earlier on is that they tend to mess around with electromagnetic capabilities. So as Static tries to go Super Saiyan to charge up, we see the jump from, instead of going Super Saiyan, he goes basically Super Saiyan God, because his powers send him flying out of the alleyway, causing him to crash into the middle of the street. He doesn't really know what's going on. He's contemplating that maybe it was the vegetables that he ate. And as he starts to head on over to the fire, he sees that the fire department's pretty much had it handled, except for this one steel door that they're trying to break through because someone is trapped on the other side. And
how the hell?
Right.
I'm sorry. How the hell did she get on the other side of the steel door?
That's what I'm wondering too, because it does not make sense. If she was if it was an apartment building, one, I don't know what apartment building has a steel door. Two,
right.
She could not have gotten down there if all the fire exits would have lead directly outside. Why would they have another obstacle for her to get through?
Yeah, what there's like, does she live in a parking garage? And with the parking garage, like those are not made out of hard steel. Those usually, like, I don't know what kind of steel door. Maybe Dakota, you want some extra security, but the firefighters were trying to use their axes to get through. And I'm not going to tell a firefighter how to do their job.
That's true. That is very true.
No, I'm going to say, I don't think you use axes on steel. Just buzz saws, maybe. That's just my guess.
But the axes aren't working. Static comes through and he's just like, don't worry, y'all, I got this. And as he uses his powers to pull open the steel door, he gives it a little too much juice here, and the steel door goes flying a couple blocks away, crashing on top of some power lines. And it starts to, start spritzing out and spazzing out onto the streets and the sidewalk as a driver starts driving towards it. And the only thing that he can do is try to swerve out the way long enough for Static to at least come and save him.
Unfortunately, Static again has too much juice, so when he moves the car out of the way, he flings it into the air, catches it at the last second. And I love this interaction because the guy in the car is complaining about getting rescued, which is, I'm telling you, if this would have happened in New York City, this exact scenario, I guarantee the person in the car wouldn't have said thank you. They'd have been like, what the hell was that, bro? Like, you threw me halfway across the city. And he's terrified, but he's like, yo, Static, can you drop me off? And Static's like, I thought you were scared to death. And he goes, I was scared to death, but the traffic is even scarier. Yeah. Dakota, what is wrong with you people?
The citizens of Dakota are just a different breed, man. They got some commentary for days. And Virgil and Richie, they're talking about it. They're talking about Static. His powers are going crazy. They're too strong. And this is when Richie kind of puts two and two together that, like, hey, maybe it actually is connected to the sunspots. So, you should probably head on home right before Richie gets tased, because Static gives him a high five that basically would make Batman impressed from our Big Leagues episode.
Oh, yeah. He would definitely use this on Joker if he could. So while we transition, what was it with the music in this episode? The music in this episode went so hard.
It did.
All the transitions. It was like, I can't remember the specific songs, but essentially it's just like in between these transitions, they had like playing the equivalent of like some Usher R&B. Like in between each scene. I was like, what are you doing, guys? What, y'all all right? You going through some things this week?
This one probably only worked out just because in the next scene, Virgil's dad asked him about, hey, are you going on this I heard you're going on this date later. So, I think it was appropriate there to play that little R&B music where it was just basically someone, with the mean vocal runs going on.
Yeah. Yeah, look, Robert doesn't want any grandchildren, all right? I understand. It's too soon for him. But yeah, so we find out Virgil is supposed to go meet up with Daisy to study for their history test. But unfortunately, his powers start acting up. The forks and all the metal objects across the kitchen start flying to him. Luckily, his sister and father are out of the room because the electrical lights in the house, everything has been disrupted. They went to check it out. So he tries to work off the power, and he accidentally sends himself flying to a great distance away from where he needs to be.
Yeah, this is Static in Africa before the actual Static in Africa episode. Unfortunately, this means that he has to cancel his study date with Daisy. As he gets a plane back, he clings onto the plane and he just flies back to Dakota. And as he's flying back down, he goes to the abandoned junkyard to once again try to dispel some of this extra energy, but he still can't control it. As low key, this probably could have been an EMP in the making if he didn't, I guess, I don't know what happened, but it was just, if there was any more electrical items around him that powered on, he would have basically created another EMP in Dakota.
Oh yeah, he was very close. It was lucky there was nothing around.
Yeah.
But I will give him credit that when he was dismounting from the plane, going to the junkyard, he did this sick jump. He jumped 50 feet in the air and landed on his disc perfectly. Yo, you've been working on your moves, Static. Yeah. Respect. I'm
pretty sure it's Richie telling him, it's hey, we need to practice this more often, man. You never know what scenario you're going to be in for this.
Your 360, 180 ollie flip.
Make Tony Hawk jealous.
Yeah, Tony Hawk is very jealous. So next day at school, he's only gotten a couple hours of sleep. He's tired. He's filling in Richie on the situation. And of course, just to pile it on, Hot Streak is back from counseling. He's out of the juvie and he's ready with his new rap soundtrack. It's not as good as Bigfoot's. Bigfoot, you safe, man. Yep. Your theme is still secure. But Hot Streak came with the hot fire behind him. So every time you see him, he's got that track behind him.
And I will say it was low-key fire.
Yeah.
So they try to keep their distance, and as Virgil and Richie head on into the school, Daisy confronts Virgil here and it's just yo, what happened with you yesterday? We were supposed to meet up. And Virgil tries to apologize, but she's like, you know what? Don't save it for me because honestly, you probably going to need it for your test today since you're the one that needs help in history. And as Virgil's taking the test, his powers start to charge back up, causing everybody in the room to just get attacked by their test papers with pens and pencils, and the papers start flying around and sticking onto their clothing and everything. The lights start going crazy. And as everyone runs out, there's this one line in which somebody who says, I'm not going back into this school unless someone gets an exorcist.
Fantastic. Simply fantastic.
So good.
And Virgil goes to blow out his powers again, but this time he feels over the ocean. But when he makes his way back to shore, he realizes he's lost too much power, and he doesn't have a connection to electricity as much as he used to. So he quickly speed runs the plot of Spider-Man 2 and is like, you know what? It's kind of nice not being a hero with powers. It's kind of nice chilling and being a regular guy. I have time for everything. I have time for my romantic interests. And he's kind of enjoying that he gets to sit down and study with Daisy and catch up on history.
I'm not going to lie. That Spider-Man 2 line got me. It is the plot of Spider-Man 2. Yep.
And I do say speedrun because that section of the episode passes by very quickly.
So while Virgil's just enjoying this life, Hot Streak is now picking on this kid, asking him for lunch money. I gotta say, it was a little shocking for me because the kid, his voice is definitely Richie's voice. And it was just like Richie was just in the scene. So shout out to that double work that was going on there just now. And as Virgil goes over to, basically just shut down Francis's, steal your lunch money operation, Richie stops him. It's like, yo, you can't do anything. Like, even back as Virgil, you couldn't handle it. And now, and you're not Static anymore. He possibly still has his full powers. So, and in that moment, Virgil is like, I mean, does he? Which quickly gets answered as Hot Streak is now throwing balls of flame at this kid as he runs away. And then one of the school's security guards runs on over to try to tell him to stop. And he immediately lights the path around the school on fire.
Look, give the security guard a raise, man.
Yeah, word.
He was ready for the smoke.
Mm-hmm.
But he couldn't handle that.
There was a lot of fire connected to that smoke, actually. We couldn't.
And Virgil's like, I'm not going to sit around and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he doesn't have his powers, he brings back the Zap Caps from way back in season 1 that contain electrical bursts of energy. And in a really clever solution, he decides to go on the street as Static while Richie and him throw grenades of electricity. And he has so much fun with this, attacking Hot Streak like this, that he goes like, I've gotten a lot stronger, the classic anime line. And he's like, I can shoot electricity with a wink. And he winks and Richie throws the sap cap and it explodes. I love it. I love this little fun he has here in the scene.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, they quickly run out of zap caps. And even though Hot Streak was visibly shook at first, he's now realizing that, like, yo, Static ain't got the juice. So he immediately starts chasing after him again, throwing some fireballs at him and all that. And as they are escaping Static and Richie, they climb up to the top of a building and Static sees a fan there on top of it. And he's thinking to himself, what if I use myself as a conductor for the electricity here? And that way be able to use my powers to, basically defend ourselves against Hot Streak. And Richie has some general concerns here. Like, he's asking him, like, what if you can't hold the charge? Like, we don't know if these sunspots might have made your body incapable of holding this amount of electricity. But Static says that, again, this is something that, like, a line that got echoed from his first fight with him. It's like, I don't know, but I have to try. I have to do something. And Hot Streak flies up. He pulls out that Witcher special hot flame sword as Static now shows that he's able to generate enough energy from the fan. And just when you think you're about to get this, like, ultimate power fight between the two of them, Static angles his hands just a little bit so it hits a water tower and sends a bunch of water headed towards Hot Streak's way, turning Francis back into the washed up villain that he is.
Ooh, nice burn. And yeah, so that incident of being a conductor and the combination of the sunspots wearing off, he gets back to his normal self. And Richie's like, oh, man, aren't you going to miss it? He's like, but I love flying around the city. And Virgil's having a good time flying. And he realizes he's late for his makeup study session with Daisy. And he gets there just in time for her to leave. And I do want to mention, as this episode wraps up, did the school really have a makeup history test the same day the entire lawn was burning? What is wrong with you, Dakota?
Oh,
Jesus.
man. It's like, you know what? I will give it to this school. They seem to be clearly funded. But again, I don't know why they are. I mean, we got chased out the building. There was a fire on the lawn. There was definitely police presence around there for quite some time, like metahuman task force police presence. So I feel like in most scenarios, the school would have been closed at least a day or two.
At least, the smoke inhalation
Mhm.
trauma. Come on, guys. Not by the book, but yep, that wraps up Sunspots of our Song of Ice and Fire. How I was about to say I was about to rank it by and say something like Christmas, Hana, Kwanzaa, Don, latkes out of 10, but we don't do that on this section. Here we just say who did it better, the fire or the ice.
This was a tough one. I think I have to, and it's so both of these episodes are really strong in my opinion, but I have to give best episode to Frozen Out, because I love when we have those superhero stories that show we don't need to solve everything with a fist. Not only was Static out here to say like, yo, let's talk this through. Here's the way that I connect with you, and I want to be able to talk that through with you. But they were also given some real resources for helping people who are homeless. So to hear that in like, I don't know, it was like 22 minutes, 21 minutes was really shocking. And for a Christmas special too, that also was inclusive. Like, it was so crazy that we have a Christmas, Hana, Kwanzaa, Dom, right? Is that the way we pronounce it?
I think so.
Okay, this thing is a crazy tongue twister. But yeah, it was just awesome. And also another thing I wanted to point out too, again, Richie's dad was going with him to every single one of these parties, meaning that my dude went from being a fine, upstanding bigot to basically being invited to every cookout possible.
Yeah, I think he has a BLM sticker now. I think right on his bumper, he's schooling others now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I did like that little detail that he keeps showing up everywhere.
Also, I do want to give it to Sunspots. It was a good episode, mainly because it was filled with so many like science facts, mainly just the idea of sunspots and how they could have affected Static, and also probably affected Hot Streak for all we know. But also just the way the episode ended, like, it's clear that Virgil and Daisy are the it couple. That's going to be his love interest here. And just the way the episode ended, where it's just like, before he had a time to maybe experience something with Daisy, and then it ends on such this like sad note after he's like just thrilled to be back to normal. So, and even there, it like ends with no music. So I was just like, it was a really cool scene just to see that, like, even though he has it all, he's still missing something. So I felt like it added more to Virgil's story. But Frozen Out was just a stronger episode in storytelling, in my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, Sunspots is a great episode, but I think Frozen Out is one of the best of the series. You just have such a well-developed and clear villain that we have never seen before, but we immediately empathize with. You have a great message about reaching out to your community and helping and valuing who you have and what you have in the holiday season. It really is a message that is universal. There's something in this episode that will strike a chord with you. It's just guaranteed. And I love the execution. I love what they did with this episode. And it just is, it's a great 22 minutes. It's a tight, great animation. There's nothing except for Richie being a little annoying. There's nothing really out of line with the rest of the series. And it also makes it clear that I'm still stuck on this, but I think the Shaq episode was intended to come after these two episodes, because both of these episodes deal with Virgil having trouble balancing his two lives. And I think if you put the Shaq episode after those two, then I'd be like, oh yeah, because I have seen him do this. He's been struggling lately. So Shaq is here to give him a nice reminder. Here, it just seems like Shaq can read the future, and don't put that idea in his head, because this is exactly what Virgil has to do for 2 weeks. So Yeah, we're not gonna. We don't need to do a whole rewatch order for the series. You can pretty much watch it, but I would suggest watching the Shaq episode after watching Frozen Out, The Song of Ice and Fire, then go watch Shaq because it just makes so much more sense that way.
Agreed, and I like that Arte alteration there as you just set up.
Yeah.
I think that definitely makes sense.
And you can tell these episodes are so good. It's for another episode. I have to add another alteration to an episode that came before. Damn it, Shaq.
And so those were our 2 episodes here for Static this week. And again, these are made for TV episodes, so very little comic connections here. We do have Hot Streak coming up a couple times again throughout the comics, but he does get, put in favor more for the other villain that they had a very similar power set. And Permafrost, I think the more important story here that they wanted to focus on was how to help someone who is an unhoused individual. These are basically what Milestone really wanted to do with their comics. Bring up these like really cool science things that that just people of color just that we know, like we at that time we were portrayed probably of not being able to just know and understand these things. And here Milestone was just like, you know what, we do know these things, we're going to show it to you right now. And then also taken to the same point of just like the issues that affect BIPOC communities, this one including the homelessness. So especially at that time, it was very bad in like certain areas, and there's still a lot of work to be done. But fortunately, there are definitely some great things that were just mentioned in this episode alone for us and for you to really just help in any way, shape that we can. So yeah, again, no comic connections, but a lot of social commentary are found in these episodes. So definitely make sure you're reading your comics, watching these shows, and also studying up on your science facts, because I learned a lot about sunspots in this episode.
Yeah, more than I ever knew. And yeah, I definitely ditto everything you said with that. The mark of a good story a good story about a bi POC character that isn't just how you can tell it's high quality is that the issues covered in it affect the community, but they're not limited to the community.
Mm-hmm.
So, homelessness and poverty, those are issues that have been entrenched in certain Black communities, of course. But this show makes it clear it is not just that an issue for one race or one type of people. It is an issue that affects everyone. Bringing in Maureen as the lens, someone who society expects to be taken care of, to not be neglected, and turning that perspective and making Virgil the person of privilege who needs to understand it is such a brilliant way to make us recognize that, yeah, we may be overlooking things in our own lives. And it is striking whether you see yourself in Maureen, whether you see yourself in Virgil. It is such a clear message. You can't miss what's going on in this episode. There's no way you're going to walk away saying you took nothing from it. So Milestone, that's what they're so good at, and that I hope to see more of when we get that live action movie, that animated movie, the Milestone animated spinoffs, Blood Syndicate, whatever they choose to do. I hope they bring the same level of attention to detail to their stories, because it really is important and it really can affect people in a positive way.
Yeah, definitely. And again, cannot wait for all those future productions. I mean, it's just going to be amazing to see these stories being told, especially because we've seen them do it right here and just already in the early 2000s. So that's it for our episode. We have a couple more stuff happening in season 2. There's a lot of great episodes still to come. But until then, take care of yourselves and definitely make sure you're checking out all these resources that were mentioned there in this episode, both in Frozen Now and just how you can help your fellow person. And also just, like also looking up how you can also avoid any sunspots. But really, check out all the resources that are available out there to help someone in need.
Yeah. And normally I would end this with a joke, and I'm still going to do it because my other advice is if you're out there and your transformer gets frozen in ice, do something about it. Don't just wait for static. Just get a pickaxe, get out there, stop being lazy.